Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Big day yesterday. The Kansas City Chiefs doling out their Super Bowl rings. And if I'm not mistaken, in years past, they usually set aside a couple of rings for diehard Chiefs fans with interesting hair who wear orange sweatpants and co-host a morning. Did you?
I got mine.
I was going to wait, but let's see. Go for it, buddy.
I don't want to brag. I'm tired. I'll bring it out later.
You do.
I'll bring it out later.
Don't. I'll
bring it out.
bring it out. Then I'll have to bring out my 6.
All right.
It's too much.
Something to look forward to. But who's bragging? We start with last night's big Game 7, Jazz Nuggets. What a crazy last 10 seconds as you're watching it unfold here. Utah with a chance to pull it out, coming up just short. So disappointing. You can see it on their faces after a brilliant series, a brilliant bubble performance out of Jamal Murray and out of that guy right there, Donovan Mitchell. In the end, though, Denver would prevail, 80-78. That's how close it was, your final. The Denver Nuggets now move on to face the Clippers tomorrow night. All right, Nick, this was a Nuggets team down 3-1, fought their way back into this series. How impressive were the Denver Nuggets?
Well, listen, it's a spectacular comeback. We've only had a dozen of these in the history of the NBA, and I'm a fan of all 3-1 comebacks because it reminds you of the most recent 3-1 comeback prior to this one, which is the greatest moment in sports history. But more importantly than the 3-1 comeback, almost more importantly than the Nuggets moving on, is how this game ended. I'm still in shock over what we saw. You have Donovan Mitchell's having an all-time first round, get back-tapped by Gary Harris. All of a sudden, it looks like, oh, my God, Nuggets are going to be able to run out the clock. And then Jamal Murray, who's having an all-time first round of his own, I don't think it's a horrific mental error, but it's a mental error. He's a 90% free throw shooter. Pull it out, make him foul you. And then this play right here by Mike Conley, I don't know if folks understand what that almost was. We have only one time ever in NBA history, in a do-or-die game, had a guy make a buzzer beater that is, if he misses, his team's done. If he makes it, his team moves on. That's the Jordan iconic shot over Craig Elo. Even Kawhi's last year, that was a tie game, so if he missed it, they would have gone to overtime. Conley had a chance in this moment to make one of the most iconic shots ever, which would have made Jamal Murray's decision to pass and the missed layup there one of the biggest oh my God moments ever. And it just rolls out. Donovan's calling for the ball. And so the end of this game, Brandon, was bananas. Throughout this game, though, you just said inexperience. What you saw was a bubble, non-bubble, doesn't matter, man. Game 7's hit a little different. And guys were tight. Guys were short on their shots. I know Mark Jones was saying guys were tired. Brandon, I don't know if guys were tired. I think guys were anxious. Guys were turning down open looks and missing shots they otherwise would make because it was a Game 7. And the Nuggets, who I think were the better team anyway, they end up prevailing by the thinnest of margins.
No, Nick, guys was definitely tired. But I thought this whole series was sensational for 2 reasons. One, you just don't see guys coming back from 3-1. Hey, pack your bags. It's time to go. When you're in a series and you're down 3-1, it's over. But to your point, a dozen teams now have done it. I want to start with the Jazz. Donovan Mitchell was phenomenal. Rudy Gobert was phenomenal. I thought that Donovan Mitchell didn't turn it on until the second half. It may have been a little too late, but when he turned it on, everyone around him took their game to a whole nother level. It shows the impact of a superstar. Jamal Murray, hats off. Great job, kid. But listen, he did not show up last night. It wasn't until the last 2 minutes of the game where he actually was involved, like to a point where he made an impact. I thought Jokic carried this team. This is why he's the face of that team. And it really came down to one play. 27, 28 seconds left. Jokic in the paint, old school basketball, big on big. And he hits a shot that was defended. And I thought that was what star players are supposed to do. A lot of people are missing out on the biggest thing, though, the biggest storyline. Mike Malone, well respected around the NBA. Guys love playing for him. Who this guy's done a phenomenal job of getting his team here. So, Wiles, I don't know how you saw the game, but I thought it was sensational. I am a little worried about the Nuggets. They did seem tired, Nick.
Oh, yeah, the Nuggets are cooked. And after the game, Murray's like, when do we play? To Scott Van Pelt. So I think the Clippers are going to roll, and then before the Nuggets are able to wake up and be like, oh, we're in round 2. Let's wake up. Oh. Nick, you know what I thought was weird about this series? They're just going to be shocked. You know what I thought was weird? Sometimes performances are so awesome, mistakes don't matter. So there's a song by Run DMC. It's called King of Rock. Nick, I think you were about 4 years old when this song was released, but you trust me, there's a song called King of Rock. And the story goes, every jam that they would play, they'd actually break 2 needles. There's 3 of us, but we're not the Beatles. Problem is, there's 4 Beatles. Everybody knows it. The sound engineer knew it. The record executives knew it. Everyone who ever heard the song knew it. And it doesn't matter. It's an obvious mistake and still an iconic line. It's still fantastic. That's how I view this series for the Jazz. Game 1, Donovan had a horrible mistake with the 8-second violation. They were up 4 with like a minute 39 left. Cost him the game. Game 5, they're up 15. Lost the game. Game 7, Donovan had 9 turnovers and 1 in the last 10 seconds that you saw. And guess what? I don't care. I don't care. It's still such a wonderful performance by Donovan. All that stuff's in the wash. When you look, he scored 254 points, most ever in a playoff series, beat our buddy LeBron James, beat Michael Jordan, beat my buddy T-Mac. It's fantastic. So I know you're going to say, like, but Wilds. If LeBron did this, it would be, buildings would be crumbling.
No.
I understand. But LeBron's on a different trajectory.
Of course. Donovan Mitchell's
agree
young.
with you. I'm okay with it.
I'm all for giving Donovan Mitchell his flowers this morning. Absolutely. But I also want to be fair, real quick, Jenna, to Brandon's point about Jokic. Jokic is a guy that as late as the middle of last season, I was highly skeptical of because if I'm being totally honest, I'm skeptical of pro athletes that aren't in great shape. And he's never been a guy who's looked to be in great shape. He can barely jump 3 inches off the ground. And I have been critical of him because of that. And I've been concerned that at the end of seasons, is he going to wear down? The answer to that is no. They had 2 7-game series last year. He was excellent in both Game 7s. You mentioned Jamal. Jamal was really bad in their Game 7 loss to Portland last season. He said he wanted to make up for it. He wasn't very good yesterday. But in a game where his team scored 80 points, 30 in the second half, Jokic had 30 himself. So I disagree with you guys on this front, Brandon. I think while I do think the Clippers will have a significant edge in Game 1 because of the fatigue, the Clippers don't have an answer for Jokic. Ivica Zubac is not going. Rudy Gobert's Defensive Player of the Year, and he can't stop this old slow-mo basketball. So I do think that is a spot where the Nuggets, Brandon, have a sizable edge.
They have a sizable edge, but it really comes down to Murray. Can Murray continue on the sensational run? I mean, this guy at the end, we seen it. We saw his reaction when he heard that he had to play on Thursday. This guy is tired. But I do believe Jokic can carry them. Jokic is the centerpiece to this next series. If Jokic can come in and defend the paint, and if he can get those buckets and just crush the boards, they really have a chance. But they need to find a cold tub. They need to find recovery boots. And they need to find their legs.
Let me ask you this. You don't think, you played football, you know professional sports, you know how much weight momentum carries. You don't think momentum can trump fatigue when it's this big, the stage is this huge for these guys, coming off what they just did, going into that series with the Clippers?
Jenna, it hits on both ends of the spectrum. You got to think about it. These guys, they're overperforming. Okay, they come into this series, they're down 3-1. So the mental strain to be able to tell yourself every single day, we're still in it, we're still in it. They talk themselves into this, and that's what champions do. So you can also argue that the mental strain from being down 3-1, this performance is emotional, and then also they walked away, they protested, and then they had to restart. So I think that they're mentally drained and also physical. So let's see what happens in Game 1. But I really believe that the Clippers have the edge here.
Listen, in my pre-playoff bracket, which is still perfect, by the way, I had the Nuggets beating the Clippers in round 2. I'm going to stick with that. With that said, I expect the Clippers to win round 1. I totally get Jenna's point about momentum, and it's a good point. But I do think, Jenna, there is a natural exhale when you have played. It's not just they won a 7-game series. They faced elimination 3 nights, 3 games in a row. And so now you have a fresh, clean slate. The Clippers have been able to prepare for either opponent. The Nuggets are not going to be able to prepare for the Clippers in game 1 at all. They won't step on the basketball court today. They're going to rest all day today. So I think the Nuggets can and will beat the Clippers. But I think the Clippers are going to jump out 1-0 because